Hello, it's Emily Honey or M Honey Reads, and I wanted to do a video today talking about some of my favorite genres and my favorite books for each genre. I have about 9 lined up. There's a lot of genres out there. So these are basically ones that I have physical copies of just to make it a little bit easier since I'm not super good at editing yet. And I'm not exactly sure how to make like those magical like boop, like pictures appear up at top. So I am going to try to work on that as I slowly get more and more videos going. But for now, I figured I'd take it a little bit easier on myself and just do ones that I already have available. And I wanted to start off with a genre that has slowly but surely become one of my absolute favorites. I never read any of these books before the past couple of years, and now that I started, I can't stop, and that is romance. And my favorite is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is the first Emily Henry book that I ever read, and I fell in love immediately. The main characters were just so cranky and wonderful and lovely, and there's Nora, and she was super relatable, and then there's Libby, her sister, who was also super relatable, and then it's like the male main character was just like super grumpy, and I loved that. I'm a big fan of the old grumpy man, but I read this book and I created a little bookmark for it. I got super into it. I mean, it sucked me in. I was able to, which I'm not usually one who can envision a lot of things very well. Like, there's that thing where if you close your eyes and picture an apple, what do you see? And I just see like nothing. Blank. But it's like, I don't know, it's weird because like I know what to picture. So it's almost like a back thought. I don't know. It's very weird for me to describe. But Emily Henry just writes so well and beautifully that I'm able to picture everything, encompass everything. It's just, I can get the full picture. I loved the small town that she was describing. I loved everything about it. It is my favorite Emily Henry book. 5 out of 5, obviously, because it's a favorite. Phenomenal. Anytime, anybody asks for a romance recommendation, Emily Henry is usually one of the first people that I tell people to read. And next is a genre that I'm actually not super into. It's one that I usually have to kind of work to finish the books, and this is a 3-part series, so the fact that I finished all 3, it had to be pretty good, and it is Fantasy and Kingdom of the Wicked. And then also, obviously, 3 parts. We've got Kingdom of the Cursed, which was my favorite of the 3, and then my least favorite was actually the last one, which was Kingdom of the Feared. Although I will say it does have a beautiful map in the beginning, so that was nice. But I loved the main character, Amelia. I loved the setting. I loved the feel of it. It was kind of like this dark, whether you were in one area that they talk about or you went down to the other area that they talk about. I don't want to give too much away for those who haven't read it. But it obviously kept me interested enough that I read all 3. Not all 3 were 5 stars for me. I'm pretty sure that Kingdom of the Curse was actually the only 5-star, maybe Kingdom of the Wicked too. But they were phenomenal. If, you like that sort of fantasy thing, it's like witch, demon, that sort of, like way long ago. I can't remember when, like the 1600s or something. It's got, because it's been a minute since I've read it. It's got all those feels, and I loved it. Kept me super interested. And then the next genre is also one that I'm not, like, I don't read a ton of them. But this is actually a recent read that's a favorite of mine. It's young adult, and it's a book that I've talked about on here before, so I won't get too much into it, but it is Clown in a Cornfield. And for a young adult, like I said, this had a lot of gore, it had a lot of horror, it had just, almost like a comical, because it's a clown. I mean, it was a really good read. Definitely great for if you love horror, if you love the spooky feel. I will definitely recommend it to anybody who wants a horror book. And then next is women's fiction, and this is one of my absolute favorite authors. I've talked about her before as well, and it's Small Great Things. Jodi Picoult has been sort of a comfort author for me for a very long time, which is incredible to have like a comfort author, not just a comfort book. I have listened to the audiobook for Small Great Things many times. It is a phenomenal audiobook. It's just one of those that really just draws you in. Everybody, because there's multiple points of view. There's Ruth Jefferson, who's the main character, who is just, a hardworking labor and delivery nurse, a wonderful mother, and she's just trying to navigate a world that's been completely upended for no reason at all for her. And then you hear from Kennedy, who is her lawyer. And, it's just, I loved every second of it, but then it was also hard to listen to and to read. And it was heartbreaking and it was real. And it was one of those books that made you want to turn around and be a better person. It made you want to take a look at what you've done and how you're doing things and change for the better. And any book like that is automatically a favorite. It's one of, it just got me. I was emotional, whether I was happy, whether I was sad. I cried, I laughed, I smiled, I rejoiced. It was a very touching, monumental read for me. And it's one that just I keep going back to. So if you haven't tried even Jodi Picoult, this is one of the books, like when people are like, what should I read of hers? This is usually one of the first ones I like push at people to give it a shot and to give it a read, because it is just that good. Even with all of her works, this one just really stands out to me. So next up, I was going to do mystery. And this is one that I have read relatively recently, and I just loved it. And it's The Guest List. It kept me so interested. I loved the setting. It's like in this Scottish, island, super full of like these horrible waves and wind, and but so it's like about a wedding, and you hear from like all these different people in the wedding. It says it on the back. There's like, you hear from 5 different points of view, which is pretty impressive. My favorite is the plus one. Her name is Hannah, and she really made the book for me. She was like, the character that really put it over the top for me, and a favorite for this category. And it had enough mystery in it for me that I couldn't guess what was going to happen, which I love when that happens. I love the surprise. I love being like, as much as I do relish in getting it right, it's always nice to be wrong every once in a while and get that twist, and then everything starts to fall into place, and I love that feeling. So mystery, definitely recommend The Guest List. Love it. Next is rom-com, which is, definitely close enough to the romance, and Emily Henry's is rom-com, so I don't know, it's kind of like a blend, I guess. So I guess we'll just say that romance and rom-com, Book Lovers is a favorite, and then I'll just throw in another favorite, and we'll just go for it. And it's one I've talked about, and it's an author I've talked about, and you guys are probably getting sick of hearing me talk about her. Love her to death. Lucy Score, Things We Left Behind, phenomenal. Knockabout series, phenomenal. Loved it. Can't put her down. I'm still reading the Blue Moon series that I talked about before, and I can't put that down. And I just really, really recommend it. I know it looks kind of thick and intimidating. It's kind of big, but I plowed through it. Again, though, I did read it on Kindle, and then I just bought a copy because I loved it that much. And Kindle reads do tend to just go by like lightning. Don't let it discourage you. It is worth it. You get all this beautiful background on these people. You know, she just really builds the scenes and the characters, and it honestly feels like it's not long enough for me. I was devastated for it to be over, the whole series. So again, rom-com / romance, Lucy Score, Emily Henry, just favorites. We'll just go with that. Next is a thriller read, and this is one that I watched the movie, bits and pieces of it when I was younger. My mom was watching it. She was a big fan of Stephen King. And this is Dolores Claiborne. And it's probably my favorite book by Stephen King in general. I listened to the audiobook. Again, highly recommend the audiobook. This book is set in like Rhode Island, and the person who was reading the book for the audiobook crushed the accent. It was just so well done. And this book, I mean, it's just, maybe it was because I remember bits and pieces of it from growing up and my mom watching the movie, but it just has that feel for me that, you know, almost familiar. It's just one of those books that I go back to. It's a bit hard to read at times. It's about, you know, Dolores, and she's in an abusive marriage, and she's got these kids that she needs to look after, and her job, her boss isn't exactly the nicest person, but then her boss starts to slowly lose it as she gets older, and Dolores is the only one there to take care of her. And you kind of just hear about a lot. Dolores goes through a lot. Her family goes through a lot, and it's a really good read. If you haven't read it yet and you like Stephen King or you like thrillers, I think it's definitely worth your time. So next is historical fiction, and this is a recent read for me. It's another one of those that came in and sort of changed the way I thought and sort of brought to light these things that were already sitting there in the back of my mind, and really was just like bringing them to my forefront. And it is Lessons in Chemistry. I know that it is a series now, and I don't have Apple TV, so I can't watch it, but I'm sure it's great. If I do get Apple TV or I find a way to watch it, I would love to. It has one character. He is a dog, and he's my absolute favorite. He's so intelligent. He's so sweet. I just fell in love. That happens a lot with dogs in books, though. Dogs are like my favorite. So my last genre is just general fiction. And this is one that I've read so many times that I've lost count at this point. I've watched the movie a million times, and that is The Help. It follows Aibileen, Minnie, and Skeeter, or Eugenia, in 1962 in Jackson, Mississippi. And it's just one of those books that I sat there and I cried, and I laughed, and I smiled, and then I cried some more, and then I sobbed, and it really just will break your heart, but will also have you sitting there and thinking and wanting to be a better person. It'll have you wanting to do better, and it's just one of those books I read in high school, and I don't know if it's just I am comforted by the characters or what it is, but I can't stop reading it. It's just one of those that I always drift back to, and I just really loved that book. I really loved the movie. The movie actually did the book pretty good justice. Of course they missed some things, but I mean, most movies are going to. but it's a pretty good, and I loved the casting. The casting was very well done. And it's just one of those that I always will recommend. So of course it has to be a favorite of mine. So those were just a few of my favorites from these genres. I know that they'll probably change easily because, I mean, a lot of these are actually reads that I've recently read. Only a few of them are books that I've loved for a long, long time. So I'm sure that they, will mold as I grow and read more. But that's the best part about books is you will always find more wonderful, amazing books out there. It's something that it really eases my anxiety that I have this, certainty that there will always be another wonderful book out there for me to read. It's such a beautiful thing as a reader to have that comfort, to have that, fallback. So those are just a few. Let me know if you've read any of them, if you have any opinions on any of them. Let me know how you feel. And if you want to tell me your favorites from each genre, I would love to hear it. I always love book recommendations, especially for some of these that I'm not super big on, like fantasy. I would love to have more fantasy recommendations that you think that I would be into if you've read Kingdom of the Wicked and you know of some that are kind of similar. So feel free, like I said, drop in the comments or go find me on Twitter at mhoneyreads and let me know what you guys think. And thank you guys so much for watching and coming along with me on my video journey. Thank you guys. Bye.